The Great Valdez Sapphire. I know more about it than anyone else in the world, its present owner not excepted. I can give its whole history, from the Sinhalese who found it, the Spanish adventurer who stole it, the cardinal who bought it, the Pope who graciously accepted it, the favoured son of the Church who received it, the gay and giddy duchess who pawned it, down to the eminent prelate who now holds it in trust as a family heirloom. It will occupy a chapter to itself in my forthcoming work on historic stones, where full details of its weight, size, colour and value may be found. At present I am going to relate an incident in its history which, for obvious reasons, will not be published, which, in fact, I trust the reader will consider related in strict confidence. I had never seen the stone itself when I began to write about it, and it was not till one evening last spring, when staying with my nephew, Sir Thomas Acton, that I came within measurable distance of it. A dinner party was impending, and at my instigation the Bishop of Northchurch and Miss Panton, his daughter and heiress, were among the invited guests. The dinner was a particularly good one, I remember that distinctly. In fact, I felt myself partly responsible for it, having engaged the new cook, a talented young Italian, pupil of the admirable old chef at my club. We had gone over the menu carefully together, with a result refreshing in its novelty, but not so daring as to disturb the minds of innocent country guests who were bidden thereto. The first spoonful of soup was reassuring, and I looked to the end of the table to exchange a congratulatory glance with Leta. What was amiss? No response. Her pretty face was flushed, her smile constrained. She was talking with quite unnecessary expressement to her neighbour, Sir Harry Landor, though Leta is one of those few women who understand the importance of letting a man settle down tranquilly and with an undisturbed mind to the business of dining. Were the guests all right? No disappointments? I had gone through the list with her, selecting just the right people to be asked to meet the Landors, our new neighbours. Not a mere cumbrous county gathering, nor yet a showy imported party from town, but a skilful blending of both. Had anything happened already? I had been late for dinner and missed the arrivals in the drawing-room. That was Leta's fault. She had got into a way of coming into a room and putting the last touches to my toilet. Her taste is generally beyond dispute, but today she had indulged in a feminine vagary that provoked me and made me late for dinner. "Are you going to wear your sapphire, Uncle Paul?" she cried in a tone of dismay. "Oh, why not the ruby?" "You would have your way about the table decorations. With that service of Crown Derby and the orchids, the ruby would look absolutely barbaric. Now if you had had the other set, and the white candles, and a yellow silk centre—" "Oh, but I'm so disappointed. I wanted the bishop to see your ruby. Or one of your engraved gems." "My dear, it is on the bishop's account that I put this on. You know his daughter is heiress of the great Valdez Sapphire." "Of course she is. And when he has the charge of a stone 3 times as big as yours, what's the use of wearing it? The ruby, dear Uncle Paul, please." She was desperately in earnest, I could see, and considering the obligations which I am supposed to be under to her and Tom, it was of little matter but to yield. But it involved a good deal of extra trouble. Studs, sleeve links, watchguard, all carefully selected to go with the sapphire, had to be changed. The emerald which I chose as a compromise, requiring more florid accompaniments of a deeper tone of gold, and the dinner hour had struck as I replaced my jewel case, the one relic left me of a once handsome fortune, in my fireproof safe. The emerald looked very well that evening. However, I kept my eye upon it for comfort when Miss Panton proved trying. She was a lean, yellow, dictatorial young person with no conversation. I spoke of her father's celebrated sapphires. "My sapphires, though I am legally disbarred from making any profitable use of them." She furthermore informed me that she viewed them as useless gauds, which ought to be disposed of for the benefit of the heathen. I gave the subject up, and while she discoursed upon the work of the blue-ribbon army among the Bosjesmans, I tried to understand a certain dislocation in the arrangement of the table. Surely we were more or less in number than we should be. Opposite side all right. Who was extra on ours? I leaned forward. Lady Landor on one side of Tom, On the other, though, who? I caught glimpses of plumes, pink and green, nodding over a dinner plate, and beneath them a pink nose in a green visage with a nutcracker chin, altogether unknown to me. A sharp grey eye shot a sideways glance down the table and caught me peeping, and I retreated, having only marked in addition 2 claw-like hands, with pointed ruffles and a mass of brilliant rings, making good play with a knife and fork. Who was she? At intervals a high, acid voice could be heard addressing Tim, and a laugh that made me shudder. It had the quality of the scream of a bird of prey or the yell of a jackal. I had heard that sort of laugh before, and it always made me feel like a defenceless rabbit. Every time it sounded, I saw Letta's fan flutter more furiously, and her manner grow more nervously animated. I never in all my recollection wished a dinner at an end so earnestly. The ices at last. A menu card, folded in 2, was laid beside me. I read it unobserved. Keep the bee from joining us in the drawing-room. The bee? Ah, the bishop, of course. With pleasure. But why? And how? That's the question. Never mind why. Could I lure him into the library, the billiard-room, the conservatory? I doubted it, and I doubted still more what I should do with him when I got him there. The bishop is a grand and stately ecclesiastic of the medieval type, broad-chested, deep-voiced, martial of bearing. I could picture him charging mace in hand at the head of his vassals, or delivering over a dissenter of the period to the rack and thumbscrews, but not pottering among rare editions, tall copies, and Grolier bindings, nor condescending to a quiet cigar among the tree-ferns and orchids. Letter must and should be obeyed, I swore. Nevertheless, even if I were driven to lock the door in the fearless old fashion of a bygone age, and declare I would shoot any man who left while a drop remained in the bottles, I doubt I'd get very far. The ladies were rising. The lady at the end of the line smirked and nodded her pink plumes coquettishly at Tom, while her hawk's eyes roved keen and predatory over us all. She stopped suddenly, creating a block and confusion. "Ah, the dear bishop! You there, and I never saw you! Ha, ha! You must come and have a nice long chat presently. Bye-bye!" She shook her fan at him over my shoulder and tripped off. Later, passing me last, gave me a look of profound despair. "Lady Carwitchet!" somebody exclaimed. I couldn't believe my eyes. Thought she was dead, or in penal servitude. Never should have expected to see her here. "What?" I cried. "Carwitchet? Not the mother of the Carwitchet who just so. The Carwitchet who?" Tom assented with a shrug. "But let's leave it there. We needn't go farther. She's my guest. Just my luck. I met them at Buxton, thought them uncommonly good company, and gave them a general invitation here, as one does, you know. But never expected her to turn up with her luggage this afternoon just for dinner, to stay a week or a fortnight if Carwitchet can join her." A groan of sympathy ran round the table. "Oh, it can't be helped. I've told you this just to show that I shouldn't have asked you here to meet this sort of people of my own free will. But as it is, please say no more about them." The subject was not dropped by any means, and I took care that it should not be. At our end of the table, one story after another went buzzing round sotto voce, out of deference to Tom, but perfectly audible. "Carwitchet, ah yes, mixed up in that Rawlings divorce case, wasn't he? A bad lot. Turned out of the Dragoon Guards for cheating at cards, or picking pockets. Something. And remember the row at the Cullinan Club. Scandalous exposure. And that forged letter business. Ah, that was the mother. A prosecution hushed it up somehow. Ought to be serving her 14 years. And that business of old Farrers, the banker, you know, got hold of some of his secrets, they did, and blackmailed him till he blew his brains out." It was so exciting that I clean forgot about the bishop, till a low gasp at my elbow startled me. He was lying back in his chair, his mighty shaven jowl a ghastly white, his fierce, imperious eyebrows drooping limp over his fish-like eyes. His splendid figure shrunk and contracted. He was trying with a shaken hand to pour out wine. The decanter clattered against the glass, and the wine spilled on the cloth. "I'm afraid you find the room too warm," I said. "Shall we go into the library?" He rose hastily and followed me like a lamb. He recovered himself once we got into the hall, and affably rejected all my proffers of brandy and soda, everything else my limited experience could suggest. He only demanded his carriage directly, and that Miss Panton should be summoned forthwith. I made the best use of the time left me. "I'm uncommonly sorry you do not feel equal to staying a little longer, my lord. I counted on showing you my few trifles of precious stones, the salvage from the wreck of my possessions. Nothing in comparison with your own collection." "What are you saying to me? You are thinking of the Valdez Sapphire, are you not? Some day I may have the pleasure of showing it to you. It is at my banker's just now." Miss Panton's steps were heard in the hall. "You're well known as a connoisseur, Mr. Acton," he went on hurriedly. "Is your collection valuable? If so, keep it safe. Do not trust a ring of your hand or the key of your jewel case out of your pocket till the house is clear again of that woman." The words rushed from his lips. He gave me a meaning glance and departed with his daughter. I went back to the drawing-room, my head swimming with bewilderment.
"What? The dear bishop gone?"
Lady Carwitchet screamed it from the central ottoman where she sat, surrounded by most of the gentlemen, all apparently well entertained by her conversation.
"And I wanted to talk over old times of him so badly. His poor wife was my greatest friend. Myra Montanaro, daughter of the great banker, you know. It's not possible that that miserable little prig is my poor Myra's girl, the heiress of all the Montanaros, in a black lace gown worth twopence. Does she even ever wear the sapphires? Has anyone ever seen her in them? 11 large stones in a lovely antique setting, and the great Valdez sapphire, worth thousands and thousands, for the pendant. I wanted to get a rise out of the bishop tonight. It used to make him so mad when I wore this."
She fumbled among the laces at her throat, and clawed out a pendant that hung to a velvet band round her neck. I fairly gasped when she removed her hand. A sapphire of irregular shape flashed out its blue lightning on us. Such a stone! A true rich cornflower blue, even by that wretched artificial light, with soft velvety depths of colour and dazzling clearness of tint in its lights and shades. A stone to remember. I snatched out my hand involuntarily, but Lady Carwitchet drew it back with a coquettish squeal.
"Oh, no! You mustn't look any closer. Tell me what you think of it. Isn't it pretty?"
"It's superb." I stared at the azure splendour of that miraculous jewel in a sort of trance.
The great Mr. Acton, taken in by a bit of Palais Royal gimmickry. What an advertisement for Bogards! They are perfect artists in frauds. They had imitation there of every celebrated stone, but I never expected anything made by man could delude Mr. Acton. Never!"
And she went off into another mocking cackle, and all the idiots round her haw-hawed knowingly, as if they had seen the joke all along. I was too bewildered to reply, which was lucky on the whole.
"I suppose I mustn't tell you how I came to have quite a large sum in francs to buy this. Oh, it is a queer story."
She tapped her fan against her mouth, and cocked an eye like a parrot wanting to be coaxed to talk. I didn't want to hear her anecdote, especially as I saw she wanted to tell it. What I did want was to see that pendant again. I could not believe it was fraud. She thrust it back among her laces, only the loop which held it to the velvet being visible. It was set there with 3 small sapphires, and even from a distance I clearly made them out to be imitations, and poor ones. I felt a queer thrill of self-mistrust. Was the large stone no better? Could I, even for an instant, have been dazzled by a sham, and a sham of that quality? The events of the evening had flurried and confused me. I wished to think them over in quiet. I would go to bed. My rooms at the manor are the best in the house. Later would have it so. I must explain their position for a reason to be understood later, though. My bedroom is in the south-east angle of the house. It opens on one side into a sitting-room in the east corridor, the rest of which is taken up by the suite of rooms occupied by Tom and Later. And on the other side into my bathroom, the first room in the south corridor, where the principal guest chambers are, to one of which it was originally the dressing-room. Passing this room, I noticed a couple of housemaids preparing it for the night, and discovered with a shiver that Lady Carwitchet was to be my next-door neighbour. It gave me a turn. The bishop's strange warning must have unnerved me. I was perfectly safe from her ladyship. The disused door into her room was locked, and the key safe on the housekeeper's bunch. It was also undiscoverable on her side, the recess in which it stood being completely filled by a large wardrobe. On my side hung a thick, sound-proof portiere. Nevertheless, I resolved not to use that room while she inhabited the next one. I removed my possessions, fastened the door of communication with my bedroom, and dragged a heavy ottoman across it. Then I stowed away my emeralds in my strong-box. It is built into the wall of my sitting-room and masked by the lower part of an old carved oak bureau. I put away even the rings I wore habitually, keeping out only an inferior cat's eye for workday wear. I had just made all safe when Later tapped at the door and came in wishing me good night. She looked flushed and harassed and ready to cry.
"Uncle Paul, I want you to go up to town at once and stay away till I send for you."
"My dear, why?"
"Oh, I'm so sorry and so ashamed. The poor bishop." "I'll take good care that no one else should meet that woman here. You did your best for me, Uncle Paul, and managed admirably, but it was no use. I hoped against hope that what between the dusk of the drawing-room before dinner and being put at opposite ends of the table we might have got through without a meeting."
"But, my dear, explain. Why should not the bishop and Lady Carwitchet meet? Why is it worse for him than anyone else?"
"Why? I thought everybody had heard of that dreadful wife of his who nearly broke his heart. If he married her for her money, it served him right, but Lady Landor says she was very handsome and really in love with him at first. Then Lady Carwitchet got hold of her and led her into all sorts of mischief. She left her husband. He was only a rector with a country living in those days, and she went to live in town. She got into a horrid fast set and made herself notorious. Oh, you must have heard of her."
"I heard of her sapphires, my dear. Nothing else. I was in Brazil at the time."
"I wish you had been home. You might have found her out. She was furious because her husband refused to let her wear the great Valdez sapphire. It had been in the Montanaro family for some generations, and her father settled it first on her and then on her little girl, the bishop being trustee. He felt obliged to take away the little girl and send her off to be brought up by some old aunts in the country, and he locked up the sapphire. Lady Carwitchet tells it is a splendid joke how they got the copy made in Paris, and it did just as well for the people to stare at. No wonder the bishop hates the very name of the stone."
"How long will she stay here?"
"Till Lord Carwitchet can come and escort her to Paris to visit some American friends. Goodness knows when that will be. Do go up to town, Uncle Paul."
I refused indignantly. The very least I could do was stand by my poor young relatives in their trouble, help them through. I did so. I wore that inferior cat's eye for 6 weeks. It is a time I cannot think of even now without a shudder. The more I saw of that terrible old woman, the more I detested her, and we saw a great deal of her. Leta kept her word, and neither accepted nor gave invitations all that time. We were cut off from all society, but that of old General Fairford, who would go anywhere and meet anyone to get a rubber after dinner. The doctor, too, a sporting widower, and the Durbleys, a giddy, rather rackety young couple who had taken the Dower House for a year. Lady Carwitchet seemed perfectly content. She revelled in the soft living and good fare of the manor house. She had a hungry way of grasping at everything she could. The shillings she won at whist, the best fruit at dessert, the postage stamps in the library inkstand. That was infinitely suggestive. Sometimes I could have pitied her. She was so greedy, so spiteful, so friendless. But she always made me think of some wicked old pirate putting into a peaceful port to provision and repair his battered old hulk, and obliged to live on friendly terms with the natives, but his piratical old nostrils a sniff for plunder, and his piratical old soul longing to be off marauding once more. Ah, when would she leave? Not till the arrival in Paris of her distinguished American friends, of whom we heard a great deal. I was alone in the house one afternoon, sitting by my window, toying with the key of my safe, wondering whether I dare treat myself to a peep at my treasures, when a suspicious movement in the park below caught my attention. A black figure certainly dodged from behind one tree to the next, and then into the shadow of a park paling, instead of keeping to the footpath. It looked queer. I caught up my field glasses and marked him at one point where he was bound to come into the open for a few steps, and he crossed the strip of turf with giant sides and getting into cover again, not quick enough to prevent me recognizing him. It was, great heavens, the bishop! In a soft hat pulled over his forehead, with a long cloak and a big stick, he looked like a poacher. Guided by some mysterious instinct, I hurried to meet him. Without explanation, I led him up a wide staircase to my room, where he dropped into a chair and wiped his face. "You are astonished, Mr. Acton. I will explain directly." "Ah, brandy? Thank you. Here is another. Allow me to add a little soda this time." "Thank you. Oh, I am in serious trouble. You can help me. I have had a shock today, a grievous shock. I must trust you implicitly, Mr. Acton. I have no choice. Please, tell me what you think of this." He drew a case from his breast pocket and opened it. "I promised you should see the Valdez sapphire. Look there." The Valdez sapphire. A great big shining lump of blue crystal, flawless, of perfect colour. I took it up, breathed on it, drew out my magnifier, looked at it in one light and another. What was wrong with it? I could not say. 9 out of 10 experts would undoubtedly have pronounced the stone genuine, but I, by virtue of some mysterious instinct that had hitherto always guided me aright, was the unlucky 10th. I looked at the bishop, and his eyes met mine, and there was no need of spoken word between us. "Has Lady Carwitchet shown you her sapphire?" She has." "Now, Mr. Acton, on your honour as a connoisseur and a gentleman, which of the two is the Valdez?" "Not this one." I could say naught else. "Ah, you are my last hope. She vowed she would see me ruined and disgraced. I made her my enemy by crossing some of her schemes. Once she has never forgiven. She never forgives. I shall appear before the world as a fraudulent trustee, for I can neither produce the valuable confined to my charge, nor make the loss good. I have only an incredible story to tell. And who will believe me?" "Well, I shall, for one." "You?" "Yes, you know her. She took my wife from me, Mr. Acton. Heaven only knows what the hold was that she had over poor Myra. She encouraged her to set herself at defiance and eventually leave me. She was answerable for all the scandalous folly and extravagance of poor Myra's life in Paris. Spare me the telling of the story. Suffice to say, she left her at last to die alone and uncared for. I risked my wife to find her dying of a fever from which Lady Carwitchet and her crew had fled. She was raving in delirium and died without even recognizing me. Some trouble she had been in, which I must never know, oppressed her. And at the very last she roused from a long stupor and spoke to the nurse. 'Tell him to get the sapphire back. She stole it. She has robbed my child.' Those were her last words. But the nurse understood no English and treated them as wandering. But I heard them and knew she was sane when she spoke. What did you do? What could I? I saw Lady Carwitchet, who laughed at me and defied me to make her confess or disgorge. I took the pendant to more than one eminent jeweller on pretence of having the setting seen to, and all have examined and admired without giving a hint that there was anything wrong. I allowed a celebrated mineralogist to see it, and he gave no sign. Perhaps they are right and we are wrong. No, listen. I heard of an old Dutchman celebrated for his imitations, and I went to him, and he told me at once that he had been allowed by Montanaro to copy the Valdez, setting and all, of a Paris exhibition. I showed him this, and he claimed it was his own work at once. He pointed out his private mark upon it. You must take your magnifier to find it. It is a Greek beta. He also told me that he had sold it to Lady Carwitchet more than a year ago. It is a terrible position. It is. My co-trustee died lately. I have never dared to have another appointed. I am bound to hand over the Sapphire to my daughter on her marriage, if her husband consents to take the name of Montanaro. The bishop's face was ghastly pale, and the moisture started on his brow. I racked my brain for some word of comfort. Miss Panton may never marry. But she will! That is the blow that has been dealt me today. My chaplain, actually my chaplain, tells me that he is going out as a temperance missionary to Equatorial Africa, and has the assurance to add that he believes my daughter is not indisposed to accompany him. His consummating wrath acted as a momentary stimulant. He sat upright, his eyes flashing and his brow thunderous. I felt for that chaplain. Then he collapsed miserably. The sapphires will have to be produced, identified, revalued. How shall I come out of it? Think of the disgrace, the ripping up of old scandals. Even if I were to compound with Lady Carwitchet, the sum she hinted at was too monstrous. She wants more than my money. Help me, Mr. Acton, for the sake of your own family interests. Help me. Family interests? I don't understand. If my daughter is childless, her next of kin is poor Marmaduke Patten, who is dying at Cannes, not married or likely to. Failing him, your nephew, Sir Thomas Acton, succeeds. My nephew, Tom? To think that Letta, or Letta's baby, might become the possible inheritor of the great Valdez Sapphire. The blood rushed to my head as I looked at the great shining swindle before me. What diabolical jugglery was at work when the exchange was made? It must have been the last occasion of her wearing it in London. I ought never to have let it out of my sight, or her. Well, you must put a stop to Miss Panton's marriage in the first place. I pronounced it as autocratically as he could have done himself. That is not to be thought of. Myra has my force of character. She knows her rights. She will have her jewels. I want you to take charge of it for me. If it is in my house, she will make me produce it. She'll inquire at the banker's too, but if you have it, we can gain time. Oh, if only a day or two. He broke off. Carriage wheels were crashing on the gravel outside. We looked at one another in consternation. Flight was imperative. I hurried him downstairs and out of a conservatory just as the doorbell rang. I think we both lost our heads in the confusion. He shoved the case into my hands, and I pocketed it without a thought of the awful responsibility I was incurring, and saw him disappear into the shelter of the friendly night. Uncle Paul, I have news for you. Lord Carwitchet and their friends have arrived in Paris at last, and they have sent for her to join them at the Grand Hotel. I was thunderstruck. Now it had come, it would remove hopelessly and forever out of my reach Lady Carwitchet and the great Valdez Sapphire. Why aren't you overjoyed? I am. We are going to celebrate the event by a dinner party. Tom's hospitable soul is vexed by the lack of entertainment we have provided for her. We shall ask the Brownleys, and they will be delighted to meet anything in the way of a ladyship, and such smart folks as the Dewbley Parkers. Then we may as well have the Bloomfields. Now, I want you to do something to please me, and Mrs. Bloomfield. She has set her heart on seeing your rubies, and though I know you hate her about as much as you do our new china dinner set— What? Wear my rubies against that china pattern? I shall not. I will tell you what I will do, though. I have some carbuncles as big as prized gooseberries, a whole set. Then you have only to put those Bohemian glass vases and candelabra on the table, and let your gardener do his worst with his great forced, scentless, vulgar blooms, and we shall all be in keeping. Oh, Uncle Paul. Then an idea struck me. I'll do as you wish, but there's a condition. You get Lady Carwitchet to wear her big sapphire, but don't tell her I wish it. I lived through the next few days as one in some evil dream. The sapphires, like twin spectres, haunted me day and night. Was ever a man so tantalized? I kept faith and reluctantly produced my beautiful rubies on the night of the dinner party. Emerging from my room, I came full upon Lady Carwitchet in the corridor. She was dressed for dinner, and at her throat I caught the blue gleam of a great sapphire. I don't know what I stammered in reply to her ladyship's remarks, for my whole soul was absorbed in contemplation of the intoxicating loveliness of a gem. That a royal deception. Incredible. My fingers twitched, my breath came short and fierce with a last lust of possession. She must have seen the covetous glare in my eyes. A look of gratified, spiteful complacency overspread her features as she swept on ahead and descended the stairs before me. I followed her to the drawing-room. She stopped suddenly, and murmuring something unintelligible, hurried back again. Everybody was assembled there that I had expected to see, but with one addition, not a welcome one by the look of Tom's face. He stood on the hearthrug conversing with a great hulking, high-shouldered fellow, sallow-faced, with a heavy moustache and drooping eyelids, from the corners of which flashed out a sudden suspicious look as I approached. It lighted up greedily, though, as it rested on my rubies. It seemed unaccountably familiar to me, till Lady Carwitchet, tripping past me, exclaimed,
"Ah, he has come, my naughty, naughty boy! Mr. Acton, this is my son, the Honourable Neville Carwitchet."
I broke off short in the midst of my polite acknowledgments to stare blankly at her. The sapphire was gone. A great gilt cross with a Scotch pebble like an acid drop was her sole decoration.
"I had to put my pendant away. The clasp had broken somehow."
I did not believe a word. The Honourable Neville Carwitchet contributed little to the general entertainment at dinner, but fell into confidential talk with Mrs. Jubilee Parker. I caught a few unintelligible remarks across the table. They referred, I subsequently discovered, to the lady's little book on North Church races, and I recollected that the spring meeting was on, and tomorrow was Cup Day. The look in both sets of the Carwitchet's eyes returned to my mind as I locked up my rubies that night. They were two of a kind, I was sure. I went round my fastenings with unusual care. Safe and closets and desk and doors, I tried them all. Coming at last to the bathroom, it opened at once. It was the housemaid's doing. She had evidently taken advantage of my having abandoned the room to give it a thorough spring cleaning, and I anathematized her. The furniture was all piled together and veiled with sheets. The carpet and felt curtain were gone. There were new brooms about. As I peered around, a voice close to my ear made me jump.
"I tell you I have nothing, not a penny. I shall have to borrow my train fare before I can leave this. They'll be glad enough to lend it."
Not only had the portiere been removed, but the door behind it had been unlocked and left open for the convenience of dusting behind the wardrobe. I might as well have been in the bedroom.
"Don't tell me you've not been here all this time for nothing. You've been collecting for a Kilburn cot, or getting subscriptions for distressed Irish landlords. I know you. You'll have made money somehow. I am not going to see myself ruined for want of a paltry 100 or so. I tell you that colt is a dead certainty. If I could have got 1,000 or 2 on him last week, we might have ended our dog days millionaires. So hand over whatever you can. You've money's worth, if not money. Where's that sapphire you stole?" "I didn't. I can show you the receipted bill. All I possess is honestly come by. What could you do with it anyway, even if I gave it you? You couldn't sell it as a Valdez, and you can't get it cut up, because it's not real." "If it's only bogus, why are you always in such a flutter about it?" "I'll do something with it, never fear. Hand it over." "I can't. I haven't got it. I had to raise something on it before I left town." "You swear? But it's not in the wardrobe?" "Oh, I dare say you will swear. So I better have a look. Give me the keys."
I heard a struggle and a jingle. Then the wardrobe door must have been flung open, for a streak of light struck through a crack in the wood at the back. Creeping close and peeping through, I could see an awful sight. Lady Carwitchet in a flannel wrapper, minus hair, teeth, complexion, pointing a skinny forefinger that quivered with rage at her son, was out of range of my vision. "Stop that! And throw those keys down here directly, or I'll rouse the house. Sir Thomas is a magistrate. He'll lock you up as soon as look at you." She clutched at the bell rope as she spoke.
I'll swear I'm in danger of my life from you, and I shall give you in charge, yes. And when you're in prison, I shall keep you there till you die. I've often thought to do it. How about the hotel robberies last summer at Cowes, Mightn't the police be grateful for a hint or two there? And how about...
The keys fell with a crash on the bed, accompanied by some bad language, and the door slammed to. I crept trembling to bed. Now here was a dilemma. If her son did not believe her, he would find some way to get the sapphire, and then it would be gone from my reach forever. Or maybe his mother would panic and allow him to take it, give her consent to its being mutilated. I lay in a cold perspiration till morning. The next day everyone went to the races for the cup, even Lady Carwitchet herself, stating that she must keep her bad boy from getting among those horrid betting men. I dreaded to wonder if he had the sapphire now, or if it was still safely hidden in her bedroom. Somehow I got through the day until they returned. All seemed well. I could hear Lady Carwitchet making her shrill adieus to her friends and her steps in the corridor. She was softly humming a little song as she approached. I heard her unlock her bedroom door before she entered, an odd thing to do, and Tom came sleepily stumbling to his room later. I put my head out. "Where is the Honourable Neville Carwitchet? Has he not come back with you all?" "Haven't you seen him? He left us hours ago." "Not come home? Well, he's welcome to stay away." I went back to my fire, unaccountably relieved. It came upon my mind to take out the copy of the sapphire I held for the bishop, and as I sat and stared at it, I all but persuaded myself that I'd been wrong. Surely this was the real stone. Then I remembered Bogart's mark. I took my magnifier and held the pendant to the light. There, scratched upon the stone, was the Greek beater. Incredible! There came a tap at my door. Before I could answer, the handle turned, and Neville Carwitchet stood before me. I whipped the case into my dressing-gown pocket and stared at him. He was not pleasant to look at, especially this time of night. He had a dishevelled, desperate air. His voice was hoarse, his red-rimmed eyes wild. "I beg your pardon. I saw your light burning, and I thought, as we are leaving early tomorrow, you might allow me to consult you on a little business of my mother's." His eyes roved about the room. Was he trying to find the whereabouts of my safe? "You know about precious stones, don't you?" "So my friends are kind enough to tell me." "You know them when you see them, don't you?" "My mother has given me something, you see, and she would like you to have a guess of its value. Perhaps, then, you could even put me in the way of disposing of it." "I certainly can do so, if it is worth anything." "Is that it?" I was in a fever of excitement, for I guessed what was clutched in his palm. He held out to me the Valdez sapphire. How it shone and sparkled like a great blue star. I made myself a deprecating smile as I took it from him. But how dare I call it false to its face? As well accuse the sun in heaven of being a cheap imitation. I faltered and prevaricated feebly. Where was my moral courage? And where was the good, honest, thumping lie that would aid me? I have the best authority for recognizing this. It is a very good copy of a famous stone in the possession of the Bishop of Northchurch. His scowl grew so black that I saw he believed me. So I went on a little more cheerily. It was manufactured by Johannes Bogart. I can give you his address. You can make inquiries yourself. By special permission of the then owner, the late Leon Montanaro. Had it back! He would have snatched it from me, but I waved him off. I couldn't give it up. It fascinated me. I toyed with it, caressed it. I made it display its different tones of colour. I must see the two stones together, I thought. I must see it outshine its paltry rival. It was a whimsical frenzy that seized me. I can call it by no other name. Would you like to see the original? For curiously enough, I have it here. The bishop left it in my charge, you see. The wolfish light flamed up in Carwitchet's eyes as I drew forth the case. He laid the Valdez down on a sheet of paper, and I placed the other, still in its case, beside it. In that moment they looked identical, except for the little loop of sham stones replaced by a plain gold band in the bishop's jewel. Carwitchet leaned across the table eagerly. The table gave a lurch and the lamp tottered, crashed over. We were left in semi-darkness.
"Don't stir! The paraffin is all over the place."
He seized my sofa blanket and flung it over the table while I stood helpless.
"That's safe now. Have you candles on the chimney-piece? I've got matches."
He looked very white and excited as he lit up.
"Well, that might have been an awkward job, with all that burning paraffin running about. Well, I hope no real harm is done."
I was lifting the rug with shaking hands. The 2 stones lay as I had placed them. No, it was the stone in the case that had the loop of the 3 sham sapphires. Carwitchet picked the other up hastily.
"So, you say this is rubbish?"
His eyes were sparkling wickedly, but he made an attempt at mortification in his tone. "Utter rubbish," I pronounced, with truth and decision. Snapping up the case, I pocketed it.
"Lady Carwitchet must have known it."
"Yes, perhaps she did."
"Well, disappointing, isn't it? Very disappointing. Goodbye. We shall not meet again."
I shook hands with him most cordially. "Goodbye, sir. So glad to have met you and your mother. It has been a source of the greatest pleasure, I do assure you." I have never seen the Carwitchets since. The bishop drove over next day in rather better spirits, for Miss Panton had refused the chaplain. "It doesn't matter, my lord. We've all been under some strange misconception. The stone in your possession is the veritable one. I will swear to that, anywhere. The sapphire Lady Carwitchet wears is an excellent imitation, but imitation only. And I have seen it with my own eyes. The one she holds is most definitely the one that bears Bogart's mark of the Greek beater."